So this is the top of Kuttenberg. If you come here, make sure to check out this view. So we finally arrived in Kuttenberg, or as it's known now, Kutna Hora. The difference being Kuttenberg having the German name and Kutna Hora being the Czech name. As you can see, it's a beautiful city up on this mountain or a hill with beautiful sights. About 70 kilometers east of Prague. Wasn't too hard to get to, and it's worth a visit if you want to come. I've come here today because it's a major city you visit in the game, Kingdom Come to Deliverance 2. Just a comment on names. If you played the game or know about history, you'll notice a lot of names today are different to what they were in the Middle Ages. So today's Grunta was Grund and Kutna Hora was Kuttenberg. And that's because there's a difference between the Czech names and the German names. In the Middle Ages, a lot of the names were in German because nobility and trading classes used German, but Czech was still used. Fast forward to today, and the Czech is prevalent and are used with all the names being a Czech country. It's called Kutna Hora or Kuttenberg because it basically fully translates to mining hill, because there were silver deposits all over this place and the city soon became rich because of this. I think the game uses Kuttenberg, the German name, because in the Middle Ages the German population were the richest, making money off the silver mining, and it's made this beautiful city what it is. So there's a few sights to see. Mainly this old church over here. I forget the name of it, but I'll quickly do a little... Alright, so if you played the game, you recognise this iconic church. This is the Church of St. James. This is the Church of St. James, the oldest stone church in Kutna Hora, and it started construction in the 1330s. Nothing else to say, then you recognise it if you played the game, and it's cool to see it in real life. I think the developers did a great job. And then behind me, up here, St. Barbara's Cathedral, which is a very iconic, and both churches you can see in the game. And even if you walk around the city, you really see how well the developers have done of remaking it. So St. Barbara's Cathedral, St. Barbara's Church, is a Catholic church. It started construction in 1380 and didn't officially finish until 1905. So, as it is with many European cathedrals or churches, it takes a while to build. But you can see it in the early stages in the game. We're going to try and go in here now, but in the game you can't see inside yet in any of the churches. So it might be able to give a sneak peek if we are able to go inside the game at a later date. So currently in St. Barbara's Cathedral in Kutna Hora, and as I said, it started construction in 1388, and over 100 years lots of little bits and pieces were added or restructured, and it didn't officially complete until 1905. So it did take a while to build, but you can kind of tell what bits are new and what bits are old. And there's a lot of original beautiful wall paintings and ceiling paintings, which I'll show you now. So now we're at the top of the church or cathedral, and this shows you the different plans throughout the ages, which bits were constructed. There's actually a church service going on right now, so I don't want to intrude. It's very beautiful and it is one of the most iconic sites in Kutna Hora. also, I just found out, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, so another one ticked off my list. So I'm currently in the Corpus Christi Chapel, which is located right next to the Church of St. Barbara. It began construction in the 1480s, so after the events of the game. I don't really remember seeing this, so but it's a nice little piece of history. So I'm currently stood outside the Sedlec Ossuary in Kutna Hora, also known as Sedlec Ossuary in Kuttenberg, depending if you're Czech or German. As you can see, this is a lot smaller in scale than it is in the game. I think that's because, well, as you can see, it's a lot smaller than it is in the game. In the game, it spreads out a lot more and the walls are a lot further out much that way. But I think that's because it was built in the 12th century, and then it was destroyed in the Hussite War and rebuilt in the 15th century at some point. The ossuary is actually the underground chapel of this church, and legend goes that a blind monk exhumed the bones in the cemetery and put them all together in the underground of the church. If you played the game, there's a very interesting quest where you go to the ossuary and you are tasked to gather all the bones underground in the crypts and around the chapel and build them all together. And actually, the bones are now built in the underground there. They've been exhumed and they've all been turned into different decorations and maybe furniture. We're about to see. I'm not allowed to film inside, but I'm going to try and get some movie pictures to let you see. So let's go. So just a few minutes down the road from the ossuary is this cathedral. And excuse me, it's the Cathedral of Assumption of Our Lady and St. John the Baptist. And I don't remember this being in the game. So the Sedlec or Sedlec Ossuary is just down this road. And then about 3 minutes down the road is the cathedral here. And I really can't remember it in the game. There's so many in the game, it's hard to remember. So we're going to go check it out anyway. So this is part of Sedlec's monastery, a church within a monastery. It was the eldest Cistercian abbey built in the Czech Kingdom, built in 1142. Unfortunately, in 1421 it was burnt down by the Hussites, and only this church remains. After the end of the Hussite War, a few monks returned and rebuilt it all, and it was officially finished in the 17th century. So it did take quite a while, not as long as the cathedral in Barcelona though. This is a little bit far from the actual main Kutna Hora old city, but we're going to go there now and see. So I've just walked about 15 minutes from Sedlec Ossuary, and I'm coming into Kutna Hora from the northwest, whatever. And I've just come across the old town, and you can clearly see where it starts. So just a reminder that the game is set in 1403, and it's supposed to be very historically accurate. So I'm going to see what kind of buildings are still around at this time, and how accurate and true to the city the game developers were. If you know the cars and the building works, this feels like one of the market squares in the game. One right by the first inn you stay at. So this definitely feels like one of the main like market squares that you go to. Down there a market, here just stuff. I think one of the first inns over there. How interesting. So that building over there was the Czech Museum of Silver, and then in front of me is a recognisable St Barbara Cathedral. So Kuttenberg, or Kutna Hora, was built upon the hill you get, so you get these beautiful views. Right, so one thing I've noticed is they don't have the big stone ramparts, the city walls like they do have in the game. I think it should be right here where I'm standing. That's part of this wall. The fountain is just like 2 minutes down that way, on part where you're coming from the west gate, and then the big St Barbara's Cathedral is just over that way, like 5 minutes. I think they did have the stone ramparts, but it partly got damaged in the Hussite War, and maybe some other wars. But they also wanted to expand the city out, and it wasn't fit for purpose, so they tore them down and tried again. There are some city walls viewable in the city, but not like the great big ones you see in the game. And I'm taking the game as gospel and real history, so anyway, let's go see more. So the first iconic sight you see when you enter Kutna Hora in from the east gate is this fountain. Because of the intense mining activity around Kutna Hora, a lot of the city was without water until 1495, when this ingenious fountain was made and gave everyone drinking water. It has since been boarded up and closed off, but it still looks good. So here's the fountain that's seen in the game, dated, can't read it, but it's been walled off. And then behind me is where you get the wine quest. So we arrived in Grund, or as it's known now, Grunta, one of the small mining towns around Kutna Hora in the game, and obviously here in real life. Became famous in the mid 13th century because of all the silver mining around the place. Not much is recognisable from the game, but there's not much in the game. The only thing that really stands is this beautiful church here. Records suggest that in the early 1300s it was dilapidated, and a new one was built around 60 years after that, and then this is what remaining, which is very beautiful. You can have a little look around the village, but it is very small, as you'll see, but it's very nice and quaint. Right, so now we're in Certovka, but players of the game will know this as the Devil's Den. There's not much record of this place, except for from the 16th century, where the Devil's Den's tavern stood. Now in the game, I believe this building over here is the tavern you stay in, the Devil's Den. And then if you follow me around here, this is where the stream is, where you can walk over, and then the baths you visit are just where that house would be, that way. So another quite accurate representation of the town. I think this is the smallest town in the Kuttenberg region. Sorry, smallest town in the Kutna Hora region. And it's just a very small, quaint farming village. And it's nice to see, but not much to do apart from live and relax. So the bar should be over there. You can find several villages in the real world which bear a resemblance to villages in the game. One such is Opatovice, in the game known as Opatovice. Sorry for the terrible pronunciation. But this is a village that dates back to the latter half of the 14th century. And I believe it was once, once a lot of abbots and monks lived here. That's about it. So another village in the Cimburg area is Ratbor, known as Raborsh in the game. German to Czech names. This village stood, the earliest records of this village standing is in the mid 1300s. The fortress that was once here was owned by King Wenceslas IV, but in around 1402 King Sigismund of Hungary burnt down the fortress. Since then this privately owned castle was built and still stands to this day. It's a shame that the original fortress isn't there, but that's what happens when there's a civil war in a country. I feel they're really not used to visitors around here, because in each little village I've been stared at. They're not used to a tall British guy walking around with a camera and a gimbal. But they've been friendly enough when I actually get to talk to them on a rare occasion. Which is funny, every car that goes past as well, they'll have a really quick look. But it is quite rural Czech Republic, so they're probably quite intrigued about what's going on. So this is Vysoka, built on a hill. In the 13th century this church behind me was built, and just another village. I'm told that in 1142 a memorable battle took here between, King Vladislav II and Prince Conrad of Zimburg. So there you go. So this is the Vysoka hillside where the big battle took place. If you keep going down that way, you'll get to Malesov, one of the small villages in, there's some old ruins and a viewpoint up here, so we're going to try and check it out. So this is the top of Kuttenberg. If you come here, make sure to check out this view. So we stumbled across some ruin in the Vysoka Hill. On the Vysoka Hill. I just can't see any information about it. It looks like some old castle or manor house, more likely. Let's see if I can find any information. So this was the Belvedere Summer Palace, built in 1697 by Count Franciszek Adolin Spork, who used winnings from a card game. It burnt down in 1834, but was once a grand palace which performed as both a chapel and a party palace. So there's also that cool little watchtower, nice little ruins on the top of the hill. Then there's this viewpoint behind me, which is unfortunately closed, but if the view is good enough down here, it must be beautiful up there. And now we come to Suchdol, one of the starting places in the Kuttenberg region in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. In the 13th century, a Gothic fortress originated here. As you can see, it's changed and a private castle is now here. So not much remains of the original Suchdol fortress, only parts of it, such as this gate bit here. So we're currently in Miskovice or Miskovice, depending on if you use the Czech or German. Earliest records date back to about 1309 for this town. There was a fortress here, but I've been looking around, I can't see no fortress at the moment, so I'm guessing it's gone. That's right, another nice little village. Pritoky or Pschitoky, another village in the game. This one is literally just the next village along from Kutna Hora, probably about a few minute drive, and it's on a long hill. So we had a lovely lunch at a cafe just here, and that's at the top of Pritoky or Pritoky. And if you come around here, that leads to the main road all the way down there, so you can see Pritoky's on the hill. Earliest records date back to around, I think, mid 1100s, 1150, more or less. And another lovely village. I don't know how well the developers did of remaking it, because I can't really get my bearings, but it's a nice village, and if you do stop here, I'd recommend eating at the lovely cafe, because they have nice coffee, nice cakes, and a tiny toilet. Picture here to show you what I mean. So there was a fortress in Pritoky, but they say there's a vaulted cellar that remains somewhere, but I have no idea where, and I couldn't find it online, unfortunately. Bylany, another small village that lies southwest of Kutna Hora. According to archaeological findings, this village dates back to about 4000 BC, so there's a long history. There's a spring nearby that provides a lot of water for the village, and also to this day, massive slag heaps lie across the village, well, nearby to the village. I haven't seen any that date back to the mining that was done all those years ago. So currently in Malesov, which is turned into quite a big village, much bigger than it is in the game, and there's a big fortress over here somewhere that I'm going to see. The name comes from a wealthy merchant called Raborsh from Kuttenberg, who started a woodcutting business here to provide the miners with charcoal. So behind me are the gates of Malesov Fortress. Behind that, Malesov Fortress itself. As you can see, it's still pretty much intact. Probably some of the work's been done up since then, but it looks pretty good, and I'm gutted we can't go inside. We had a quick look, and there's all people dressed up, and there's a sign saying, "Have you completed the Save Henry challenge?" And in the distance I hear Kingdom Come Deliverance music, so they've already made the most of it and are I think there's a lot of people reenacting certain parts of the game and doing all this that medieval shebang. But yeah, it's quite amazing really. In the codex of the game, it says this is a favourite of the Warhorse team, the developers of the game. What reminds of it was a 5-storey Gothic tower and walls and all of that lot. So it's annoying we can't go in. I might need to revisit when I can come in. So the codex tells us it's steeped in history. In 1421, Martin something protected it by a group of Pragas, and it was actually used as a top fortification during the Hussite War, so it's a very important historical place. You can see why it was a popular fortress. Beautiful location and pretty hard to conquer, especially from this side. Beautiful. So on our way to Cimburg Castle, and it's hidden by like this small tunnel system. Feels like a proper adventure. So if you follow Google Maps down to Cimburg, that's with a Z, and it's with a Z in the game, you'll come down this really steep road, and then go through this like weird path, underground path, and then come out to this natural beautiful area. Walk 5 minutes and you'll come across the ruins of Cimburg Castle. The original settlers were here around late Stone Age, 3000 BC, according to archaeological study. Right, hi guys, I'm currently in Zimburg, in the Zimburg ruins. Had to move to my emergency camera on my phone, and my mic's not fine, so it's probably not the best quality. But I just wanted to say that this is one of the Zimburg castles. The original castle and the ruins that you play in the game, around in the game, unfortunately are not around anymore. And historians say that there might not have been a castle in that original grounds at all, but they put in the game anyway. And the Cimburg you find are these ruins here. And they're quite interesting. Not quite what is in the game, but it's still good to see, and you get a good feeling of it. Do get a chance to come down here, I'd suggest coming here. It's beautiful Greenland area, and just interesting to see some of the ruins. If you do come down to Cimburg, you'll make your way down a steep hill, through the underground area, through the woods, past the Cimburg ruins, and then it opens out into this beautiful open place, surrounded by trees and nothing else here. Perfect place for a picnic. We're at the Cimburg ruins, and we've just come across this like crypt area, which looks very interesting. I'm definitely going to go in. Wish me luck. Actually, you're coming with me. Oh wow. Interesting. I'm not sure what this is. Like a little area used for storing food maybe, or who knows. You know what this does remind me of? In the game, the Zimburg mission or quest, you have to save Knight's brother, and he's kept in a cell very much like this one. So this could have been a prison, but it's also very cool to see because it reminded me exactly of the game. So maybe prison, somewhere to store food, who knows? But quite a cool find and interesting to see.
So finally, this is the Danemark Mule. If you play the game, you know of a little settlement called Danemark. It was built above the Vysoka River in the 15th century, and it's remembered because it's one of the last surviving 15th century buildings in the Kuttenberg region. It was constructed and, became popular during the golden age of Kuttenberg, when all the mining was making the city rich. It's had an 18th century refurbishment, but a lot of it has like the original buildings in it, and it will be really interesting to see. Now I think it's a B&B, actually you have to pay to get in, but I'd love to see it. I may do some over the wall shots for you, but unfortunately I couldn't get a reservation.
So one thing I really wanted to do was get a scale of the game and see how it compares to real life. So this is the famous fountain, and I'm going to walk down to St. James's Church and time it and see how long it takes, and then do the same in game. That in about 3 minutes or less, from the fountain to St. James's Church in Kutna Hora. So these city walls are still good, and the cathedral is in all its glory over there. Beautiful. Alright, time to go home now.